Good afternoon and welcome to State Senator Carolyn Bosn, legislative candidate from District 25. Thank you, Senator, for joining us for our virtual legislative candidate meetings. My name is Gina Ragland, and joining me today is Susan DeCamp, volunteer state president, and advocacy lead volunteers Tim Potter and Liz Brum. Senator Bosn, we appreciate your taking the time to meet and discuss issues of importance to the 50-plus voter and their families in Nebraska. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with AARP members across your district prior to the election. So to start us off, Senator Bosn, if you don't mind giving us a little background about yourself and your campaign and try to keep that maybe to 5 minutes or less, that would be wonderful. And once we've completed your opening, we'll move into the questions. So welcome, Senator Bosn.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me, Gina. I appreciate it, and for the introduction. Like you said, I am from District 25. I was appointed to fill the vacancy when former Senator Geist resigned. So although I've been in the legislature just over a year, this will be my first time on the ballot, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to represent District 25 for another 4 years. By way of background, I'm a former prosecutor. So I worked at the Lancaster County Attorney's Office for a little over 8 years. Prior to that, I was in Douglas County, Seward County, clerking in Douglas County, Seward County, and Platte County. And then I did work for a short period of time in the Saunders County Attorney's Office as a deputy attorney. Handled a number of cases there, primarily juvenile child abuse, neglect cases, domestic assaults and narcotics. Had a lot of experience working with victim advocacy groups and law enforcement towards trying to keep Lincoln a great, safe place to live. I resigned from that office, or from that position, in 2017 when we had number 3. Started staying home with kiddos. We now have 4 kiddos, and was working part-time at my husband's office. We own a small commercial heating and air business here in Lincoln, and also started teaching at the law school. So I was teaching trial advocacy there 1 night a week. And then also I coached their competitive trial team, which was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. When this opportunity presented itself for me to join the legislature, certainly it was an interesting time to join the legislature, but I really felt like, hey, this is an opportunity to be an advocate with a very diverse background. So I've done the stay-at-home thing. I've done the working mom thing. I've worked with law enforcement and victim groups, but I also get the business perspective, and I can humanize some of the things that go kind of interlink those issues. So I've been really excited for this opportunity, and was fortunate to sit on the Judiciary Committee and also the Transportation and Telecommunications Committees. Obviously, everybody probably kind of knows a little bit about what those are, but I came into it knowing a whole lot about one, Judiciary, and not as much about sort of the inner workings of transportation and telecommunications, but have really dove into that area and learned a lot, and really think I can be a strong advocate for some of those issues as well. As far as my campaign, I'm knocking doors, working hard to get name recognition, a positive message, that I think we can do some great things in Lincoln and really keep this a great place to raise a family.
You bet, Senator Bosn, and thank you for your commitment. I know, being a working mom and also a stay-at-home mom and having 4 little kids at home, I know there's a lot of things you have to give up and sacrifice. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for leadership on not only the Judiciary Committee, but transportation. AARP has been very instrumental in working through a lot of the broadband issues in the past years. And so we certainly appreciate your leadership on that as well.
Of course.
We're going to move on now into the question section. We provided you with a set of 3 questions pertaining to the 50-plus in Nebraska. And again, these are issues when we talk to our members that come forward of most important to them. And so again, allotting 5 minutes for each question. Our first question this morning will come from Tim Potter, and it addresses health, caregiving, and home and community-based care. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Gina. And hi, Senator.
Hi.
Hi. 84% of Nebraskans over 45 say staying in their home as they get older is extremely important to them. Home and community-based services and area agencies on aging become important assets to caregivers as they care for loved ones. Home care not only meets the needs of their loved ones, but it also provides relief to an already strained long-term care industry. What would you do to protect and or expand the home and community-based programs, particularly recruitment and retention of a sufficient workforce and adequate funding for the programs and services that older Nebraskans and their families rely on? And a related question, what will you do to support the 179,000 unpaid family caregivers in Nebraska?
I appreciate this question. I can come at this with a little bit of a personal experience recently as well. Sadly, we lost my father-in-law last year, but he had been receiving a number of in-home services to try and support him and his wife while he was needing that supervision and support. I think what the legislature can do is continue to rely on industry experts, have those conversations, and be open to the advice and the feedback that you guys are giving us in terms of what's working and what do we need more of, and where can we pivot to an emerging area, an emerging need in the community. I agree with you. I think there is a transition to a lot of individuals. One, I think it's a cost benefit to staying in their own home. They prefer that. But also, if that is where the trend is going, how can we best support in-home services to be successful in the home, and also to compensate, as you said, family members who are sacrificing time away from their own family income. A lot of them end up having to leave the workforce in order to stay home with family members. That was our own experience. My mother-in-law had to start working part-time because she couldn't receive enough support to have somebody in the home all the time. Well, that takes a toll on her own income. Certainly her own mental health suffers. And I know we did some things last session to sort of improve some of that, but I think there's a lot more that we can do to support those family members, because one, you're then reinforcing that family is important, which I think Nebraskans all agree, but also it's a significant cost savings to have family members providing those services, but also they need to feel valued for the sacrifices and the commitment that they've made to their elder family members or older siblings, parents, and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
You
Tim.
bet.
Thank you, Senator Bosn. And I do want to publicly thank you for your support of LB 937, which was the caregiver tax credit bill that did pass. We totally agree.
Yes, okay.
It's a small step forward, but we have a lot more work to do. And so we would love to continue to engage with you on, clearly, you get it and you've walked the walk and talked the talk. And so we really would like to partner with you in the future on more of those issues. So thank you for your representation on that. Our second question, we're going to switch to a little different.
I would be happy to help.
Thank you, Senator. Our second question is more on consumer fraud, exploitation, and protections, and Susan DeCamp's going to take that. So go ahead, Susan.
Good morning, Senator Bosn. It's nice to have
morning.
you here with us.
Thank you.
So,
nice to be with you.
Great. So scammers are increasingly targeting older adults with scams such as wire transfers, gift card scams. I'm sure you've heard of the grandparent scam. And more and more recently, some scams are popping up involving theft of real property. So nationwide, the average victim of elder fraud lost nearly $34,000 due to these crimes in 2023. And in Nebraska, the FTC showed that there were 4,643 fraud reports made. Nearly 9 in 10 consumers agree that lawmakers need to do more to protect consumers from fraud and scams. With that in mind, I have a two-part question. So consumers lose billions of dollars each year to online financial, property, and other types of fraud. What will you do to ensure that Nebraskans are protected against fraud and deceptive business practices and provide opportunities for redress to victims of fraud? And the second part of the question, would you support enacting laws to require merchants that sell gift cards to post notices about fraud? Would you support enactment of a consumer fraud restitution fund? And would you support implementation of preventative measures to assist in combating owner and seller housing impersonation fraud?
All right. So I might have to have you repeat that second part of the question when we get to that.
Sure.
this is my lane. So this is a judiciary issue. This is certainly, having been a victim advocate for a number of years, something very near and dear to my own heart. I see the emails and the text messages that my own parents get and my mother-in-law gets. And it is, the word gross comes to mind, the things that are manipulated and said in order to tug at heartstrings and motivate people to believe what is being said to them. Last session, I did bring a bill towards victim restitution for those who have fallen victim to online fraud. So this was LB 934 was the bill. I brought it on behalf of the Attorney General, but what it allowed us to do was to freeze the bank account funds of those bad actors so that we could use that for victim restitution. Because I agree with you. I think having restitution is really, and you're never going to be made whole. It's not going to ever be equal, but that loss of income, especially for individuals who are living on their retirement and don't have the ability to go and just make more money. Well, that isn't a reality for a lot of these individuals. And also, I think when you have felt victimized like that, certainly at that age, rebuilding trust is really, really hard for those individuals. So to answer your question, I agree with you. More needs to be done. Certainly, I've taken some steps in the right direction, but online fraud, it impacts all ages, but it is certainly more targeted towards the aging population. I coincidentally attended an online fraud training yesterday where they talked a lot about the dual factor things that we can do with accounts and things like that. I had never actually, until I just wrote it down when you said it, been presented or wasn't aware of a notice of fraud type of warning, which I think makes perfect sense, to gift card retailers and places like that. You see those kinds of things on everything else, cigarettes and alcohol and all these other things that have known concerns. Why would we not also make people aware of that? More information is always better than less information. And so certainly I would support that and would be happy to work with you in advocating for things along that nature. It's a huge one, it's really expensive. This industry, you're right, you're using tons of taxpayer dollars to go after all of these individuals. So it seems to make sense from both a victim and also a consumer of these items perspective. So yes to that. Did I answer all of the questions? I tried to remember and take notes.
Sure. One of them was, would you support an enactment of a consumer fraud restitution fund? And you touched upon that earlier regarding your experience with the restitution fund. So yes.
Yes, and I would support that. So I'd be happy to work with you guys on those types of issues. I think those also fall in a judiciary space, which is great because that's where if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I'm hoping to stay there and can help with a lot of those things. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for giving us your insight on that topic. And thank you also for introducing LB 934.
You bet. Absolutely.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Senator Bosn. And I will bring to your attention, we also did introduce a gift card scam payment bill last year with Senator Bostar in the banking committee, but got a lot of pushback because of, the mandatory posting from the retailers and the grocers. So we were not able to get it out of committee. But I will, and I'd love to have more conversation with you on this moving forward, because I think there might be, maybe we can make it go through judiciary and have a better way of doing something. Where I'm going with this, I know Senator Bostar is looking to bring back something else in conjunction of what we've already done. But I also, you probably heard a lot about cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin fraud. And so, there's more of that in addition to the gift card that's also happening. And again, I think at the end of the day, the bottom line is it's hard to track back where those people are. Because a lot of times it's overseas and that sort of thing. And so again, education and that, but we would love, I thank you for your interest and your commitment to working on that. And have more conversation with you as we move before the next session. So thank you for that. Our last question now, we're going to switch over into what we call livable communities. And it's called helping people stay in their homes and communities. And Liz Brum is going to take that. So go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Senator, for joining us today.
Sure.
Nebraskans over 65 are the fastest segment of our population, and research shows that most of them want to remain in their homes and communities as they age. As housing costs continue to increase, older adults are unable to find housing to meet their needs when seeking to downsize, and thus are being pushed out of communities and homes that they've lived in for generations. What will you do to support, incentivize, or ensure that the creation of affordable and diverse housing options, such as accessory dwelling units, intergenerational housing, manufactured housing units, and townhomes? Will you fight to ensure that the homestead exemption program is maintained and protected to ensure that older Nebraskans that qualify can continue to have access to tax relief program that allows them to age in place?
Thank you for the question. The short answer to that is yes, I think the homestead exemption should remain, but quite frankly, I think we need to expand the homestead exemption, because what I hear at the doors pretty consistently among individuals who are in the aging population, I haven't heard any of them say they love the amount they're paying for property taxes, but a lot of them are exempted out of those homestead exemptions. They're so narrowly tailored. And I don't really understand the reasoning behind that. These are individuals who have paid off their home, who have been living in the same home. They're not out buying something that's outside of their budget. And so what you're doing is you're displacing a number of individuals in a community away from their family members who might live nearby and there are a good support system for them. And where are you really sending them? They can't afford something. We don't have the housing right now in order to just, oh, I'll just move. That's not an option. So I do think we have to continue on that. I've had a lot of conversations, and I imagine we're going to touch on this at some point soon. I work with Aging Partners on a group right now to make Lincoln an age-friendly community, and I know part of that includes housing issues that the aging population is experiencing, and how can we best support them. I think the homestead exemption is a step in the right direction, but we've got to expand that for that group. So,
okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you for your support of those issues, Senator Bosn, and of course, being a representative on the age-friendly Lincoln. We are thrilled that Lincoln is moving forward with that, and exciting things to come in our city. So
Yeah,
for your representation on that. So that takes us to the end of our 3 questions that we had, Senator Bosn. But as we come now to the end of our meeting, I want to give you some time back to talk to your constituents about your priorities for serving in the legislature. Do you have any specific issues outside of anything that you've already started talking about that you want to plan to work on or address? Again, if you want to talk about committees, feel free to do that. But again, giving you some time back and closure. So thank you, Senator Bosn.
you bet. I guess I would end with sort of what my priorities are. And my focus has been on public safety. I think that is the #1 driver for economic growth in a community. I think people want to feel safe in their community, have a well-supported law enforcement, good schools. That's how you draw talent and keep talent. And that's also what people are looking for when they're considering where do they want to grow and raise their families. So a lot of the legislation that I've worked on and things that I've brought focus primarily on public safety. It all comes back to that, in my opinion. But I think that also takes into and does touch on a lot of the things that you guys have, because are your priorities, whether it's the scamming concerns that there are, whether it's the housing issues. How do we have that available? What if you're in a nursing home? Are we providing support so that we can staff those well? The bill, and I'm drawing a blank right now, on childcare facilities, sort of an emerging trend is to have those right there and accessible to those nursing home facilities. One, parents are more likely to go back to work if they feel like they can have that connection. That's certainly been successful downtown Lincoln in the Huddle area and other places nearby. How can we expand that to childcare with nursing homes and childcare with communities where the population is a little bit of an older population? I also think it improves the quality of life of the individuals who are living in those communities. So those are some of the areas where I really think we can do some great things. I think that is it's exciting. I think it's a positive thing instead of, harping on something negative. It's how can we fix this and improve quality of life? Those are the types of issues I think are really important to my district and certainly to me as a mom with young kiddos. I want to be able to go home at the end of the day and say, look what we did, look whose lives we improved, and here's how. And I think this is a great space to do it, is public safety related, working within your community. So those are the things that I look forward to. Like you said, I like being on judiciary because that's sort of my background. And I'm hoping to stay also, should I be fortunate enough to be elected, on transportation and telecommunications. So happy to partner with you on any issues relating to broadband, rural services. I know you guys also work with a large number of your members are in rural areas. Maybe that's not District 25, but certainly greater Nebraska, where that's really important to them. That's their connection, and that's how they stay in touch with family members. It's also a safety issue. And so how can we best tailor that to meet the needs of our residents in Nebraska? So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for letting me talk with all of you. I wish you all the best of luck. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Bosn. And a real quick side note, I appreciate you bringing up the intergenerational piece. Again, we worked with First Five with Senator Richards in passing that bill and putting, again, those pilot projects of childcare facilities inside of our long-term care. So I think great ideas, great support. We appreciate all that you have done in the past. And again, look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us. We wish you the best with your campaign. And again, thank you so much for meeting with AARP. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You bet. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Senator.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.